Welcome to another episode of Tiger Talk. I'm your host, Don Holston, Athletic Director for Armada Area Schools. I want to mention a few things that we had happen here in the fall, give you a little bit of an update. We had a lot of exciting things go on during the fall season. First, I want to mention the girls volleyball team won a district championship and advanced on to the regional semifinals, where they played really well but fell to the North Branch team in 4 games. It was an entertaining season. The girls were extremely successful, and we want to make sure that they know that we're very proud of them for their efforts and for an entertaining season. We want to also congratulate our boys cross country team. They won the Macomb County Championship meet for the divisions in 2, 3, and 4. Alec Albrecht, Connor McKenzie, and Noah Verlinde were named to the all-county team. The boys cross country team also qualified to run in the MHSA state finals in Brooklyn, where they finished 16th in the state, capping off really what was an impressive season. Our girls basketball team also recently just received notification and a banner from the Michigan Basketball Coaches Association being recognized as one of the top teams in the state for sportsmanship. This is a great honor, as the girls have conducted themselves with class on the floor while being extremely competitive. Also, I want to mention, if you're able to attend events held in the main gym this year, you may notice a camera hanging on the east wall of the main gym. The camera will be on for all home events, and we'll be streaming those events live over the internet. And that will be through the National Federation of High Schools website. The website for that is nfhsnetwork.com. If you go there, it's subscription based, and the subscription, I believe, for a month is $9.99 or $10.99 for a month. And if you want to go for a year, I think it's $70 for a year, but that will allow you to stream all the events that are on there, not just Armada's. For that camera, we'd also like to thank the Athletic Boosters for the purchase of that. The camera was taken care of cost-wise by them, and then also we want to thank Beowulf Electric for their donation of the installation for that system. Finally, we've made some incredible changes around Armada High School in terms of upgrading our athletic facilities. Athletically, we have done extensive renovations on the locker rooms and installed a new baseball field and tennis courts outside. We've also added a brand new scoreboard at the football field. Most of these things, I should say, were able to be done through the bond that was passed, and we are extremely thankful for our voters for passing that bond. We feel like it'll only enhance the experience for our students while they're here at Armada schools. Now that we've gotten through the fall updates, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to have a guest. Our guest today is Paul McBride. He is the president of the Tri-County East Officials Association. He's going to talk a little bit with us about officiating, the ins and outs, and what we expect from our fans, what we expect from our players, and also he's going to give us some information where if you're interested in being an official in the state of Michigan, he'll be able to tell you where you can go and how to do it in terms of signing up and getting registered to do that. So we will see you in a minute, and we'll bring Paul in and we'll talk to him.
People, let me tell you about my best friend. He's a warm-hearted person who loved me till the end. People, let me tell you about him. It's so much fun, whether we're talking man to man.
You don't need to be bigger than life to be a good dad. You just need to spend time with your kids. It takes a man to be a dad.
Welcome back to Tiger Talk. I'm your host, Don Holston. Today's guest is Paul McBride. He's the president of Tri-County East Officials Association, and he's joining us today because he's going to give us some insight on the officiating world and what it's like to be out on the floor and be a part of the competition. He's also going to talk about several things in terms of expectations from players and fans, and we're also going to talk about if you're interested in being a registered official. It's actually not a bad way to make a little bit of extra money. If you're a college student, could be a great way to make some money as a college student, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and how that process works in terms of getting registered through the MHSA. So, Paul, I want to thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Don.
I think it's important for you guys to have a little bit of a voice. I know I'm in the gym 5 nights a week sometimes, and I see good and I see bad when it comes, in terms of how officials are treated out on the floor. It could be from anything, from parents, could be players, could be coaches. I mean, we're very fortunate here. And especially even in our league, the Blue Water Area Conference, we really stress sportsmanship. And I feel like, even though we're not perfect, I feel like we're way better than a lot of areas that host games. So, I guess I'm tooting our horn a little bit, but I do feel that way. So, and maybe you can even speak to that a little bit. But let's start really simple. Let's start with, why don't you give us a little bit of background with athletics? What's your background in athletics?
Well, I think I'm like most guys, you and I both, and most guys played high school sports. I played high school athletics growing up, and then played college for about 15 minutes of college of athletics, but I was primarily a high school athlete. I loved high school athletics, and it was a different time. It was almost like the Hickory High thing where everybody was in the community, and I think the BWAC brings a lot of that back too. It's not all that recruiting and everything. So high school athletics is a very special event, and it was special in my life. So I was a high school athlete, and then once I got out of high school and college, I continued to play adult sports and everything, and extended my childhood till about 40. And so so I've still got a little growing up to do still. So when I played softball for a while, so I was always involved in athletics and had a passion for athletics in general, but especially high school sports.
Okay. So when you moved from high school sports to officiating, how did that happen? What got you into officiating?
Yeah, officiating was always like, it always started out as a way to supplement income. Whether it was before I did high school sports, it was always just a little bit of a way to make money and stay involved with sports. And ultimately it started with me when the economy was a little bit down, and we were on 40 hours and I needed the money. And a friend of mine was involved in high school athletics, and he needed a partner, so we got involved in that way. And just about anything I do in my life, I got carried away and got involved with it at a much higher level than I thought I would end up doing it. But the passion for high school sports, it seemed so exciting, and the opportunity to make a little bit of money to supplement and take care of my family was the draw, for sure.
So, and how long have you been involved with officiating?
High school, I think the first year I registered was 2003, so I've been a high school official for probably 15, 16 years, and I did slow pitch softball and things of that nature for probably 10 years before that. So,
okay.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Been around for a while.
Yeah, probably a little too long. Ask anyone.
Yeah, I guess it depends on who you ask,
exactly.
Right? So, tell me this: what are some of the best parts of officiating? What are some of the best things about being an official?
Easily the best part about being an official is the relationships. The relationships I've built through the years, you notwithstanding. I mean, we've known each other since high school, but the people that I meet and I've attained and maintained those types of relationships, or the draw. Every time a season starts, like now we're getting into basketball, and I have to get myself up and go to the gym, and for an hour there, I dread going. And then I get there and I see the people that I know and the officials I work with, and it's like, wow, that was really good. And that is easily the most important thing. And obviously, we still use it to supplement. We never need to have enough income, right? Our small kids become big kids and whatever, and small bills become big bills. But the biggest draw to me, and easily the main reason, is the relationships.
Nice. Well, let's flip it on the other side of the coin here. What are the worst parts of officiating?
The worst parts of officiating. The worst parts of officiating, I would start by being fair and saying the time that you're away from home. There's because of the need for officials, as we'll touch on later. I would love to be able to back off and be able to do, say, a night, 2 nights a week, 1 night a week. But just based on need alone, I end up working 4 or 5 nights a week. So it becomes drudgery, and it becomes tough to be away from home. And then of course, dealing with spectators and situations that arise through the course of a season makes it even more difficult, I would say that the time away would probably be primary, and then a close second would be dealing with spectators and unruly fans.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. Like I said, I mean, our problems here are few and far between, which I really appreciate. I mean, for our fans to be respectful, and our players and our coaches to be respectful. I've never known, and actually I think it was one of your colleagues, Rod Lackey. I was talking to him, and we were talking about officiating. He said, I don't know of anybody that works with me in officiating that's ever walked into a gym and said, you know what, I think I'm just gonna mess with these kids tonight and just just referee terrible, you know?
Right.
I mean, you know, nobody ever walks into a venue and says, I'm going to do a terrible job tonight, or I'm not going to be fair, or you know.
They don't think that far ahead, but I don't want to get too far away too, because you're talking about the BWAC and how you guys have approached it. Because I kind of came in when I started officiating in the Blue Water area. Most of the schools got their own officials. You didn't use an assigner. So when I got in right at that ground floor, and I work with the BWAC and the MAC and the OAA. I've worked with multiple associations, but the BWAC, and I'm not just saying this because I'll repeat it in front of anyone, takes a lead in handling issues. Always had. It starts at the top with you and Don Gunther and some of the other ADs, and I've mentioned it in the past that you do handle these situations very directly. Your parents are receptive, so it helps, so it's not a big brawl. But we've always been able to come to you with issues, and you've always been able to handle them, so it creates a very good relationship. And I will say, the more that we've talked about it, the better it has gotten. Last year was probably the best year we had, because we're starting to address it. And I think that you know, once the parents start understanding a little bit more of it, and it's understandable. We're both parents too, of high school kids.
Absolutely.
So the passion is still there, but there has to be an understanding for it, but there has to be a vehicle to get them to understanding, and the BWAC has definitely taken a lead with that, starting with Armada and then trickling right down. So we are certainly appreciative, and so when you talk to Rod Lackey and some of these other officials, they definitely acknowledge what you guys have done for us as well. It makes a big difference.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, because I think we do, as athletic directors, at least in our league, we meet once a month, and we often talk about those particular issues, you know, and what we can do to make things really better for everyone, and not just officials and not just players, but for the fans, the coaches, you know, anybody that's involved in the event. I mean, we want everyone to enjoy the event. We want everybody to be able to come in, you know, win or lose, walk away having some type of you know, some type of enjoyment out of the event itself. So I am glad to hear you say that. And again, like I said, I mean, we're very fortunate, and it makes my job a little easier when I don't have to address fans every single game.
Exactly. So you don't have enough to do
without
dealing with that, right? I mean,
yeah. So I know there's an official shortage, okay? You know, I've talked about that. I mean, you see it. I mean, there's been, even last spring when we had some baseball, softball games where I had JV games where I could only have one official there, because and it wasn't because you didn't want to send officials out here, it's because they just weren't there to send.
Yeah.
Where are we at with that? I mean, what would you say are the main causes of that sort? Why are officials walking away in record numbers from doing it? And I know there's several reasons, but what would you say, in your opinion, is some of the reasons?
There are several reasons, and it's always different for everybody. And the MHSA has done a very good job recently of finally acknowledging a lot of it. A lot of times in the past, it was simply, you know, life changes. You know, everybody's life changes. You know, you grow up, you get away from it, you get a different job, your family becomes more growing, and you want to go watch your kid play instead of officiating games. So life changes do have a lot to do with it. And then, you know, economic situations too. Like right at this current time, the economy's pretty good. So people are working instead of maybe officiating. And when, you know, we have a lull in the economy and they need the money the same way I did, they'll find a way to officiate more. So there was a lot of reasons, but I think a lot of it ties back to, like, it's not just as simple as a life situation. Like, we'll weigh it out as now I'm 54 years old. I know I look much younger, but I am 54. So now as I get older and we start moving into you know, we've worked our whole lives to get to a certain point. So you start weighing it out and saying, you know, is it really worth it for me to leave work, to drive an hour to get there, and then I get home at 9 o'clock, and then and it's repeat. So I think that, yeah, there are life changes, but it's more like, do I really want to sacrifice it when I'm going to get to the field and deal with the primary reason, which again, the MHSA has recognized this, and they're going to try to deal with it, I think, over the future. But the spectator and parental involvement in a negative way is what's really driving officials away. I mean, it's very clear cut. All you got to do is Google it. There's issues all the time. It's caught on video all the time. And, you know, people, I just don't think they quite understand what they're doing. I mean, a lot of these kids we're not professionals. You know, we leave work. We all have jobs. We might run into you at Kroger. We might run into you at the gas station. we're just regular people. They don't fly us in for these games.
Right.
So, we only have limited time. Even the training at the high school, at the state level, is not required. It's recommended, but we can't require it. So, training sometimes lapses. And of course, once we start losing and we don't have the numbers, the quality goes down. So there is frustration from parents. But, the constant the heckling of the parents to a grown man who's like, I don't have time for this, or a kid who's just can't handle it, and it just deteriorates the base of officials. So that would be the primary reason, and the other things kind of are outliers in my opinion. They are reasons, but they're not. They wouldn't, like pay scale. Well, it is. Michigan pays low, but that's not really the point of it, because I wouldn't do it for free, but it's not for the money.
Right.
And once it becomes unenjoyable, the money's certainly less. So,
right.
I would say that the issues with parents and spectators is easily like 90% of the issue.
Yeah.
It is.
That's unfortunate.
It is.
I know you had mentioned, while I'm thinking of it, you had mentioned training. And I know in the summer, you guys do some off-season stuff with training of officials. I know we do, like when we do scrimmages, you'll bring guys out, you'll have them work when they're new to it, or even some of the more advanced guys will come in and work with those individuals, kind of help them with, because I think what a lot of people don't understand is there's a lot to officiating a game in terms of being an official. There's certain spots you need to be, there's rotations that have to happen, there's certain areas that you're responsible for looking for where the other guy isn't, and I mean there's a lot of things.
There's a lot to it. Yeah.
And I recognize that, and I wouldn't even profess to be an expert in that area. I probably know enough to get me in trouble if I were out there refereeing,
Right.
But I know when you talk about the training things, what are some of the things you do to help bring some of the officials who may need to improve or may have to have some extra help? What do you do for those officials?
Well, we do just what you said. We'll try to couple it with scrimmages because everybody's time's limited. I mean, again, we're not professionals, we're not college officials, they're all people living their regular lives trying to fit this stuff in. So if there's a scrimmage out there, last weekend we had some scrimmages, and we invited everybody who was new to it to come out, and there was, we think we had about 8 to 10, which is a low number, but hey, it's 8 to 10 better than 0. And they did a fantastic job, and I think we're going to be able to utilize them to some level to get them going. But what I like to do is just to keep it simple, because like what you said, there's so much really more to it. That's what I kind of would like to get across sometimes to fans. It's like, look, you're watching a lot of things that we're not really, I hate to say, I'm not looking at that, but we all have certain responsibilities,
right.
and so sometimes those things slip past them because there is a lot to know. But when I bring in a younger official, especially the kids, I want to keep it as simple as possible because I want them to be comfortable, and so we'll just keep it as simple and not worry so much about the mechanics, and just say, hey, look, the coaches, they're not really super concerned about where you're standing when you make the call, as long as you make it properly. They're not really concerned with what hand you signal it with, as long as you're a good official and you're approachable and you're a good person. I mean, we all want to be a positive part of the process. Like you were saying, you want to have it to be a good event for the parents, the kids, and everybody. I want to be able to go and take a ball out of bounds during a timeout, and talk to a guy in the first row and say, hey, how you doing tonight, and stuff like that. And that's not necessarily messing around, but just have a positive environment. So we want the kids and the new officials to be comfortable with what they're doing. We won't want to scare them off, and then we'll bring them to the gyms and actually work a game, and we'll let the parents scare them off. No, but we have to bring them in and bring them into the situation very slowly, and try to keep it easy, and let them take it as far as they want to take it, because we can't force them to be good. We can't force them to want to do it. They have to take that on themselves, and you can't make somebody want to do it. So we give them the vehicle to do it, and we certainly need them, and if they want to do it, we're more than welcome to take them on.
Yeah. It's funny because last year we had some miscommunication, whatever, and we didn't have an official show up for a freshman game. So I said, hey, no problem. Give me a minute, I'll be right back. I went over to my office, grabbed my refereeing shirt, came over, and refereed the game.
Yeah, so, I saw the pictures.
Yes. So I will say this. It is so different being on the floor. And I mean, of course, I was by myself, so I couldn't see everything. But even then, I'm watching stuff go on down low, and I'm right on the baseline. And it's tough to see in between all the players. Yeah. Everybody's moving. It's not as easy as everyone would think it would be when you're standing right there on the court. I mean, when you're away from the court, you may think you're seeing everything, but I don't think you are.
No, they're not watching everything, and it's really easy when you're really only watching it from one viewpoint. When you have that natural bias, again, my daughter's played high school athletics, and so certainly you can't. It's unavoidable. You try to be as fair as you can, but rarely do you hear somebody say, when a call goes against their kid's team or whatever, say, "Oh yeah, that was an excellent call." You're instantly going to be biased to it, so it's understandable. So when you're sitting here looking at it, you might see this. You're looking at it differently than an official is, and like you said earlier, my main goal, and every official I know, we don't think deep enough to it to think who we're going to do wrong and who we want to win, because we don't care. We don't care who wins. Ultimately, I don't even follow this stuff in the paper. I rarely go to a game anymore because I officiate so much. I just want to come in and get out and not have any issues. And it just doesn't matter. Like working very competitive games, but I'll take the easy ones just as much, because you'll have your share of competitive games. You don't know when they're going to come. So you just want to come in, come out, and have a very good experience. I think the parents probably feel that way too, and same the kids and the ADs. So we're all on the same page in that. We just have a different way of getting there.
Yeah. Well, I know one official told me one time, the best game that I ever officiate is one where I go officiate the game and people don't even know I was there.
Exactly.
So, and in fairness to the people who are watching and in the stands, the coaches, players, you guys are going to miss calls. It's going to happen. I mean, you're human. You're not going to be able to. I mean, perfection is just not. I don't care how hard you try, and how you can watch any level you want, and you can see that there's going to be mistakes made, and it happens. I mean, you want to minimize those mistakes and do the best you can, but it's just, you're not going to be able to see every single thing.
You're just not, and that's another thing that I tell newer officials. I became a much better official once I knew and realized that when I showed up, I was going to miss a call. Not to sweat it out, and it might not even be that you missed it. It was just a close call and whatever. But the main thing is, it's like, look, I'm not going to sweat that call. I'm going to move forward and make sure it doesn't affect my next call. But you're going to miss calls, because like I said, and it's part of the process in high school athletics. They do consider it an extension of the classroom. And so there have been situations where we've made big mistakes on the field, and it'll go to the state. Real quick example, two Christian schools, small Christian schools, were playing a few years ago. Kid hit a home run, a walk-off home run. Think about how often that happens at these schools. Not often. Kid hits a walk-off home run to win the game, and when he was coming around second base, he took his helmet off. Well, the umpires thought that was illegal, which it's not, and called the kid out, and when it should have just been a game over. So after the game was over, both the schools got together and decided, you know what, we want to revert back to the actual finish. And they went to to MHSA and they said, no, the official's human, and it's part of the learning process, and that's kind of what we do. It's an extension of the classroom. And so sometimes we got to keep that in mind too, that sometimes that losing and maybe having that adversity is part of the process we're involved with too. You're not going to win every game, and this is not what it's about. It's not professional. So sometimes having that adversity is good for everybody involved.
Sure. So is there anything, talking about the shortage, going back to that, is there anything specific that they're doing in terms, and we'll get to the legacy program in a minute, but is there anything outside of that where they're trying to recruit more officials or trying to pull more people in? Yeah,
the MHSA took a step a few years ago to actually require us to have a recruiting coordinator within our association, which is a very good idea. My recruiting coordinator is Bob Malacone.
Okay.
And Bob, and I think what happens is people look at Bob, because I hope he sees this too at some point, and think if he can do it, so can I. But actually what it is Bob has an actual passion for the game that's never going to leave him.
Yeah, no, he does. He does. I know Bob very well,
Yeah, and as your skill set diminishes, if you can continue to have the passion like that, and it comes out of it, and everybody can recognize it. So he's a very good recruiter in that means. So he was a perfect person for it. But my wife is very active too, because she's an educator, and she gets very involved, and she's always asking me, what can I do? What can I do? So she posts things at the high school to draw kids in through the legacy program. And so and some people post on Facebook. I because I'm an official, I don't get too involved with social media.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that stuff. But generally, that's kind of what we do. And it's been the last couple years, and I know it's because our association's gotten bigger as well, we've had a lot better feedback, but we're still not keeping up with bringing in as much as we're losing, because no one wants to see me working 5 years from now. So we got to even though they probably will, we need to get people coming up behind guys like me to take our places and keep it, because otherwise we just get the quality is going down. It's tough. It's really tough, and you try and again you try to be fair with that as well too. But it's just the whole process can be very frustrating. It can, but the recruiting never ends.
Right, and I feel like if people are leaving and you're bringing in new people, there's going to be that rollover of experience needed to be better, and and it's not a knock on newer officials that they may struggle a little bit in games. I mean, it takes experience to get better. I mean, it's just like anything else.
Everything.
Yeah. So.
Well, that's what you'll see too, and you've seen it at your place. We'll have, especially in a basketball, you have a 3-man crew. We might have 2 guys with extensive experience and then a rookie. It helps him. Plus, they can protect him, and it's kind of on the job training without really affecting the quality of the game. But that's the only way we can do it.
Sure. Let's talk about the legacy program through the MHSA a little bit. I mean, I would assume, you probably know way more than I do about it. I do know that it's trying to recruit high school students as officials. Maybe you can speak to that a little bit better than I can.
Best program they have, okay? The schools appreciate it. It gets kids, it's almost like, you can bring them in and it's your guaranteed job placement, You can, right now it's currently set up to if you're a high school junior or older, and I think that they said they were going to try to lower the age, which is a double-edged sword, but that's a whole different thing. But we get the high school kids. If you're a high school junior or older, you can register through the legacy program. I know it's a less money. It might be $10 or $15 for for every sport, and they just have it set up to where you don't work varsity games. If you're doing baseball, you would only work in the field. You wouldn't work the plate. And volleyball, we're trying. You work the R2 instead of the R1, and you'd be mentored by your partner. And that's the key to it. What I would say about it is, because my daughters did it, I've had family members do it. It's a great way to make extra money, and it's a great way to encourage more maturity, if there's anything such a thing. But you're dealing with adults, you're dealing with adult situations, you're dealing with a whole big group of people. You're learning how to talk and communicate. So I think it really makes you a better person overall. I always thought athletics did, but also if you take officiating, it would do the same thing. So the legacy program is for high school kids. We use them like crazy. I have no problems using them, and we have such a need. It's hopefully continues. We get them in there and it continues past high school. Sometimes they go to college and we lose them, but ultimately I think it's a good experience for the kids, and you're going to make more money, and you're going to be able to set your own schedule better than maybe working another part-time job that you would work in high school.
I tell a lot of the kids when they're leaving for college, I tell them, sign up and be an official. You can find an association. They'll help train you. They'll help. They'll take care of you. They'll put you under their wing. They're not going to send you out there, to just hey, go and do this job, and we're not going to tell you, or give you any direction whatsoever.
Yeah, right. No.
And I tell them, it doesn't matter where you go for college. There's high school games.
Intramural too.
Yeah, and even intramural. There's games everywhere you go.
Everywhere you go, and they're all looking, and it's always about how far you want to take it. Do you want to come in and just make a buck, or you want to come in like Nick Meyer? Nick Meyer is my sub-assigner. He's taken it to a whole nother level, but it was the same thing. He was I don't even know how old Nick was, but he was a kid, but he looks like he's 18 still,
I know,
right?
Yeah.
He still looks young, but he came in and worked with us, and I knew by looking at him, I was like, this kid can work. So I would take him to the BWAC games with us the same way with me and an experienced guy, Nick. And now Nick has worked, I know he's on Division II rosters, he's worked Division I college, and he's just taken it to a whole nother level where he could almost make it a profession. And we know other guys who've done it in baseball too. They're working minor league baseball right now. So if you get into it young enough and you like it, you can do more than just high school, you know, or you can just stay around the neighborhood and be a part of a positive experience here, because it is important.
Good. So if there's people out there and they're interested in officiating, where do we send them to get registered?
The first thing you would do is register on MHSA.com. if you're in a legacy program, a high school kid, they do have like a little drop down or something that has the legacy high school program. It's pretty self-explanatory. If you're out of high school, just register online. That would be your first step. Then it kind of walks you through if there's tests required or anything of that nature. Then you would want to contact a local association, which is me, with Tri-County East officials, and we are the assigning arm for a lot of the area schools, and we can direct you. Even if I don't assign it, I would direct you to somebody who did. So the first step would be to get online and register with MHSAA, and then the information for all the associations is there, but you can also contact one of the local high schools too, yourself, or any of the other high schools. They would point them in my direction, and I could help out in that way too.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the things we should have probably pointed out is we've mentioned assigning and assigners, and what we mean by that is I give you my games and you assign officials for all the games.
Yes,
So-
yeah, and it's a lot, and almost every school at this point in time does use an assigner. So it's not like it used to be, but they will submit their entire schedule to one person because who the heck wants to do it? Other than somebody who's crazy,
hours,
right?
and hours of work. So.
And then if you run into issues, now I have a pool of 500 people I can draw from. Whereas if the poor ADs, they would just think they have it all set, and then Joe Jones calls in that day and you're done.
Yeah, my life would turn into a virtual train wreck if it rained that day and I had 2 doubleheaders at home.
Right, and that's what mine is. Mine is a virtual train wreck because I'm working and I'm at work, and the whole time, I'm sweating it out. I'm thinking, and that's why I got to get help to help me out assign these games, because it does happen, and life happens. Life happens all the time where guys get sick or anything. It can happen, and that's why the assigners become very necessary for the schools. And you got to have a good relationship, because just like sometimes you just can't. You do everything you can, and I hope that the schools know that for me, I'm definitely doing everything I can. So when I start waving the white flag, I've already done everything I can.
Right.
So they've been very good. Sometimes we have to go a little short-handed. Sometimes but we get through it, and it usually no one's gonna be hurt, and and the right team usually wins. But we just have to work together as a team.
Right. And I will say this, you talk about how we should need to be understanding of the shortage, and if you're doing everything you can. And I will say this, there's been times when I've shot you an email and say, hey, I missed a game and we need officials tomorrow night, and I know that you've already pretty much tapped out and got everybody assigned, but somehow, some way, you figure a way to make it work and get officials in my gym or on my fields. So it works both ways. So I mean, it's appreciated. I think it's a like you said, it's a relationship that has to be mutual, where there's got to be understanding on both sides.
Yeah, there has to be shared accountability on everything. Even when it comes to crowd control and everything, it's shared accountability. We all have to work together. And when that situation, because I mess up so frequently, I don't sweat it if a school makes a mistake and misses a game, because the next time it might be me. But we'll just get it done. We'll move it around, and we'll take care of that business. And to date, I've been assigning, I think, for 10 years. I never had a situation where I just didn't have officials. Like I just didn't. Now, there's been times this year where I said, look, just do not ask me for officials on this day. I don't have them,
Right.
But the schools, you work together, and again, it's a shared accountability thing, and we're all working for the same goal ultimately. And everybody's like, it's about the kids. It's about the kids. Well, it is about the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's no question about it.
Yes.
You'll hear it so much to where you're almost like, you know what, knock it off. But when you start breaking it down, just like anything else, it's about the kids.
Yes, absolutely.
It has to be.
Yeah. And that really, to me, I think sometimes if there's anything, that focus is lost, where it's about the kids, the competition, the educational athletics part of it, where you're as well as I do, I feel like playing athletics in high school gave me such a leg up, and I went right into the military out of high school. So when I felt like I was already somewhat conditioned in terms of discipline just from athletics. So you get all that, and it's all part of the big scheme of things, I feel like. So focusing on the kids and making them the priority, I feel like, is probably one of the more profound statements that we can share with everyone.
Absolutely, because it gets lost because we say it so much, because there's some people that just don't mean it, but it is. And getting back to parents, as much as it drives me crazy, they're so in with their kids. They are looking out for their kids. They just might not know exactly how to do it,
Right.
but there is that love and passion for their kids, and they want what's best. That they that they lose sight of the fact that we do too. You know,
Right.
we do too.
Yeah, sure.
And the biggest thing to me, and I wanted to make sure I mention this, because whenever I come back to Armada and work games, it's like this at a few places, but they're kids that I refereed 2 and 3 years out of high school. And I'll be getting ready to leave, and they'll come up and say hi and everything, and we talk, and again, that goes back to the relationships. And I always leave thinking, wow, that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
And so it's not, if for anybody out there that thinks that we're out there to do anything to short any of the kids on any level, that's not true at all.
Right.
That's not true at all. Because I might see that kid at some point. That kid might be reffing for me hopefully one day. You never know.
Right, sure.
You never know. But there's, it is the process is for the kids and making it a positive experience. You want to always look back on it as a very good thing. It's a short duration too.
It is.
So we want to enjoy it while it lasts, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, I can't thank you enough for joining us.
Oh, Don, thank you for having me, man.
I appreciate all your insight. I think it helps. I mean, really, it helps me. I think it'll help, like I said, everyone else that's involved in the events with the coaches, parents, players. It's refereeing is not easy, and that's why I thought it was important to have you on, so we could have a chat about all the different aspects that go on with having you guys on the floor, because you're a part of the event, you're a part of the competition, and it's important that we kind of all see what the end goal in sight is, and that's positive experience for the kids.
Yep.
So
I agree, and I appreciate you having me out, because the message is important, and the more we get it out there, the more opportunity we have for fixing some of the ills that we have. So yeah, thank you very much.
No, I appreciate it. Well, that'll do it for us. We want to thank Paul for being here. Hopefully, we've been able to answer some questions that maybe some people have had in the officiating world. Also, don't forget, if you're interested in officiating, you can go to mhsa.com. If you're a high school student, you can work in the Legacy program. If you're not, you're always still welcome. You can sign up, get registered, and you can always come to my office or email me, and I can give you that information as well. So for all of us here at Tiger Talk, we appreciate you watching. Have a good day.